Welcome to the Manders Mindset podcast. Here you'll find both monologue and interviews of entrepreneurs, coaches, healers, and a variety of other people, where your host Amanda Russo will discuss her own mindset and perspective and her guest mindset and perspective on the world around us. Manders and her guests will help explain to you how shifting your mindset will shift your life.
Welcome to Manders Mindset, where we explore the power of shifting your mindset to shift your life. I'm your host, Amanda Russo, and I am so excited to be here today with Bree. And Bree is an Akashic Record reader and an energy healer. And we are going to delve down exactly what that is and how she got down this journey. Thank you so much for joining me, Bree.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. So who would you say Bree is at the core?
Oh my gosh. Many things. I think I wear many hats. As you know, I have a background in business, but then I'm also an Akashic Record reader and energy healer. So at my core, I'd say that I'm multifaceted and multidimensional. But at the root of my core, I'd say I'm like a little fairy, as strange as that sounds.
I love that. Can you take us down memory lane a little bit? Tell us about your childhood, upbringing, family dynamic, lay the foundation for us a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I'm an open book, so we may go pretty deep today. But growing up, I was surrounded by healers and intuitives in my family, which really led me to where I am today. But part of that journey of me growing up was seeing so much of life through specifically my mom. My mom was a teenage mom. She had me at 17, single mom for most of her life. So I really watched her grow up and kind of grew up alongside her. And so I feel like that's what made me so mature at such a young age, because I was growing up alongside my mom in a way. But that, showed me so much of life and exposed me so much at that young age. And as I continued to grow older, being exposed to so many different scenarios and issues in life and life's challenges really made me understand people and see where other people were coming from. And that's what makes me so compassionate, I think, because I can see where people are coming from and I can see when people are struggling. And at the end of the day, that's why I do what I do, because I want to be able to help them.
Well, that's beautiful.
Thank you. So that was me growing up, but me coming to becoming an energy healer and Akashic Record reader, of course, there were energy healers in my family and intuitives in my family. My great-grandpa on my dad's side was a pastor. He, in the Philippines, would travel throughout the Philippines and preach, but he would also go to the prisons and preach to them as well too. And they would joke and they'd say when he came home, sometimes he would come home without shoes because he would give his clothes away to people throughout his travels, which is amazing. And then my grandparents on my mom's side, they practiced Filipino energy healing, which is energy healing. It's called hilot. It's energy healing and massage combined into one. And so they practice that. And so just growing up with intuitives and healers all around me really opened my eyes to alternative healing, I guess you can call it, and kept me open since then. And then it was through my own healing journey through 2020, a breakup, a change in career. That's what brought me to the Akashic Records and what led me to becoming the healer that I am today.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, was your mom involved in energy healing as well?
She taught me, so my grandma taught both my mom and I just as we were growing up. And so she does have her own gifts. She doesn't currently practice herself, but she will heal her friends and things like that. But she's not out of the spiritual closet just yet.
I get it. So I'm curious, you mentioned business. Now, did you go to school for business?
Yeah. So my background, I'm actually a CPA. I did everything that I was quote unquote supposed to do, went to university, got my CPA, got the big girl job at the firm. And I just like, this is also what brought me to this work, because I just remember driving around downtown in my hometown, which I don't live there anymore, and just thinking like, okay, is this it for me? Because this is kind of like I've ticked off all the boxes of everything that I'm supposed to do, but I don't feel fulfilled because I don't feel like I'm doing anything to help anyone, and it's not lighting me up. And so, that just pivoted me as well too.
So I'm curious how you made that shift. Oh, are you still a CPA?
I do both. So I still love business, but I was always told like, this is the path to stay down. You won't be able to find a job that will help you balance both. And I just kind of said, I don't believe that. There's definitely something else out there for me. And so I kind of went delusional, I guess you can say, in my manifestations, and I kind of made that happen. And so I'm still a CPA, but I do have my energy healing business and my Akashic Record business as well too, which is growing, and it's exciting.
I love that you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah. And like, the reason why I was brought to business in the first place is because I love understanding mostly small businesses, because I love helping the small business owner or the small entrepreneur, whatever you want to call it. That's where my passion really does lay. But yeah, it's taught me so much, and it's taught me about how to run my own business too.
I'm so curious when you discovered Akashic Records.
It was through my own healing journey in 2020. It kind of, for many people, it was the time where we took a pause and we reflected upon our life. Then I realized that I really wasn't happy and I wasn't fulfilled in every situation, every aspect of my life, if I'm being really honest. And so throughout that time, I was really seeking my own healing. I was reaching out to other healers and other readers just to see if they can help give me some direction and help me connect with my guides a little stronger. Because at that point, I really didn't think that I had my own gifts. I was really I thought it was, my family's thing. I believe in it, but I didn't think I had that for myself. And so I was searching out for other healers and readers, but then some of them offered courses, and I was honestly really curious. Can I learn this too? Can I just learn how to do it on myself so that I don't have to keep reaching out to other people? So I'm just curious, let me try. And so throughout that, we started practicing in our classes. We started practicing with other classmates. Then I started practicing on friends of friends and other people. And then I started to realize that I too had my own gifts that I could share and help other people with. And like, how could I not? If I have that ability, I really felt like I found my calling at that time.
I love that. Can you explain what Akashic Records is?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Akashic Records is a record of your soul and the many past lives that your soul has lived. In an Akashic Record reading, we also can see your future possible timelines, which means your future possible life paths. We also connect with your spirit guides and your spirit team, and people on your spirit team will provide you with guidance for how to move along that desired life path that you're wanting to go down. So what's really interesting in the Akashic Record is that we'll see some of your past lives, the careers you had in those past lives, or maybe it's the relationships you had in those past lives, and how those past lives relate to whatever you're going through and whatever's going on in your current life.
Now, I'm curious how this is, I don't know if it is at all. I could be completely like, is this similar to like reading a medium type reading?
Similar, yes, except that in an Akashic reading, we are seeing your past lives too, which I don't know if I've been to many readings that have brought that up, at least not the mediums that I've been to, but you do see your past lives. And it's so invaluable to know about your past lives, because what happens is that our soul throughout each of those lifetimes chooses specific partners, careers, life lessons, and family members and many other things. But they choose those main things to reincarnate in each lifetime. And so if you can understand what someone was to you in a past life and what kind of happened then and how it's similar to what you're going through in this current life, I feel like that's very valuable to know, because then you know how to navigate that dynamic. So an example of that would be, I had a client who was going through a little bit of relationship issues. And in her past life, she saw that her current husband was her son in many past lives. And it really did relate to what she was going through in this current life, because she always felt like she had to baby her son. And so that dynamic kind of made more sense to her in this lifetime, because it has happened many times before and it's coming back again.
Yeah, I haven't had mediumship readings delve into the past life. Honestly, I was just looking for like kind of a comparison of something even listeners might be able to relate to if they haven't experienced Akashic Records.
But I will say that it is similar to mediumship reading in the sense that in mediumship readings, you are connecting to loved ones who have passed, which they do come through in Akashic Record readings. And in addition to that, you are seeing into the future possible timelines, what your future looks like. That does commonly happen in mediumship readings too.
Now, was there a moment when you realized like you needed to get involved in Akashic Records and start doing this?
I think that when I started going to them myself and receiving the information, it just blew my mind, because it gave me so much information about how to navigate a lot of the challenges that I was going through. I thought, oh my gosh, this is such a powerful tool to use. I feel like I got not the easy button, because it's not easy, but like a little bit easier, because I got more information about how to move forward in life and what decisions I could make to lead me down path A, B, C, or D, if that makes sense. And so seeing how powerful that was for me and how much it affected my life, I kind of just knew, like, once I knew I was able to do it, I couldn't look back from there. I had to keep going.
Now, you mentioned about growing up, being surrounded by different healing traditions. How did these experiences shape your understanding of energy?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sure there's many layers to that. But, like growing up with people who practiced and believed in alternative healing, it really opened up my eyes to what alternative healing is, what energy is, how powerful it is. My grandpa, who I lived with for a few years, actually, he was 57 years old. He was super healthy guy, huge Bruce Lee fan, had a at-home gym, super healthy. He was experiencing headaches and he went to the doctor. They found out that he had stage 4 brain cancer, and the tumor was the size of a golf ball in his head, intertwined into his brain. They even brought him to the universities to show everybody how rare of a condition that he had. And so he did 33 rounds of chemo, didn't change the size of the tumor at all. After the 33rd round, they did the scans again, nothing changed. So then they said, okay, Mr. Delacruz, you have 6 months left to live. And he really wanted to go back to the Philippines to visit his mom, who was still living at the time. And this was really like his last goodbye at 57 years old. So quite young. My uncles and cousins and everyone went down with him to the Philippines to visit my great grandma. And to the house, she knew he was sick, didn't know to what extent. But by the time he got there, he was pretty much on his deathbed, to be honest. Lifeless, couldn't walk, was feeding out of a tube, was gray. He couldn't even change his clothes. But when my grandma came to visit him at the house, she brought energy healers and Filipino shamans from the community to try to help ease the pain. So they did energy healings on him for 7 hours a day for 7 days straight, which is, that's a lot of energy. But by the third day, he was actually able to start eating real food again and changing his clothes again. By the seventh day, he was able to walk, which he hadn't been able to do for a very long time. And then 2 weeks later, he was able to walk longer distances around the neighborhood and eventually start driving. And so when they came back to the Philippines after that trip, they did scans. The doctor did scans on him again in Canada, and the tumor was gone. And so, yeah, like the doctors were in disbelief, and they kind of said, what have you been doing? And he said, I went to the Philippines and I did energy healings with shamans and Filipino healers. And the doctors were like, okay, like we can't advise you to continue doing that, but whatever you're doing, it's working. So keep doing whatever you're doing. And so he's 78 years old today, still living. Tumor is gone. He's an older man now, but he's still alive today.
Wow.
And so, yeah.
I got chills all over my whole body.
Yeah. It's crazy. But, like seeing that happen at a young age, I think it was 10, 11 years old at the time, it just completely blew my mind open to energy healing and the power of energy. And I just can't not believe it because I've seen it with my own eyes.
Wow. But he also had to have some belief that it would help.
Absolutely. And to be honest, before being approached with the energy healers, he didn't really believe in energy work that much at that time. He was kind of closed-minded to it. He didn't believe in alternative healing at all. But at this point, he was kind of on his deathbed. So he was like, you know what? Like, I'll just try it. I'll just see what happens. And after that, he obviously believes now. But it's really interesting, and which is why I'm so passionate about energy healing and subconscious work, because throughout those days, they really dove deep into what the energy was behind the illness and what needed to be cleared. So it is so powerful.
What type of energy healing did they do? Do you know?
I was pretty young, but they just did like energy healing. So obviously they were intuitives and energy healers. They might have done some like Filipino healer type of energy healing, but he just said energy healers. So I'm just assuming they worked with energy in different ways. And of course, when you're doing healings for 7 hours a day, 7 days straight, I'm sure there were different types of energy healers that were there. For listeners, just think about if you've ever experienced a massage or ever experienced an energy healing even. Most sessions are around an hour long. And just think about how you feel after that 1 hour. And so you can only imagine what it would feel like had you done that for 7 hours a day for 7 days straight. It's a lot, but it's just so powerful.
No, it really is. Hearing that story makes me think of, and I don't really talk about this a lot, but prior to getting down the breathwork journey and discovering meditation, all these different energy healings myself, I was diagnosed with daily chronic migraines. Doctors, I went to neurologists and all these different specialists, and no one could figure out the root cause to these migraines. And I was young and they were putting me on all these different medications, trying these different things. And it wasn't until there was a medication that literally made me pass out and faint in an American Eagle. And I was 19 years old. I was really healthy. And thankfully I was with my boyfriend at the time. But like, I was scared shitless. And the doctor was like, you can't stop this medication because you don't know what's going to happen. And I literally looked at him and I was like, I'm willing to risk fainting, like from stopping this, because I'm already fainting from this.
Yeah.
And I started meditating, and I don't take anything for migraines anymore, and I don't have them anymore. I'm now 28, but like, and it wasn't a tumor, but it was like, and I remember saying to my mom, I'm like, this doctor is arguing with me. And I got in an argument with the doctor because I was like, what's going to happen? I'm going to faint from not taking the meds? I will take my chances. I'm already fainting from the meds.
It's incredible.
I just started meditating because I was pissed. I started meditating because I needed to calm myself. And my mom's like, you can't raise your voice at a doctor. I'm like, Mom, like, he doesn't get it. Like, he's telling me something's gonna happen. But I'm like, do you realize that I was unconscious in American Eagle and they couldn't even wake me up right away? Like,
oh my gosh, that's scary.
Other than the migraines, I was healthy.
19 and spring chicken healthy. Yeah.
And it's like,
I totally agree. The medical system, I have nothing against. They have their own, that's their job. They're not supposed to really advise to do energy healings and go to shamans. But at the same time, I just feel like it's unfortunate that alternative healing isn't recognized as much as I feel like it should be, because it really can change your life. And at minimum, it can change your perspective about how you feel when you are going through those certain illnesses. I think the world is changing a little bit now. They're kind of opening their eyes to understanding how powerful energy healings and alternative healing can be. But I don't think it's recognized as much as it should be, in my opinion.
No, I know. We'll get in there. We'll get in more there. I completely agree with that. But yeah, it's just so powerful because there's also so minimal side effects to all of this energy healing, Exactly. And it's like there's side effects to all of these pills of all this different things that can happen, which I get it. There's a time and a place for pharmaceuticals. I'm not like fully anti them, but it's just like, I think we need to work our way a little bit more away from that. If I could do some breathing technique or I could do some energy healing and have no side effect and some relief, like that is amazing.
Totally. And it's empowering as well, too. Once you learn that you can, for you doing meditations, like you're taking that back and you're taking that power back and you're able to help heal yourself through that. Or at minimum for other people, maybe like even ease that pain that they may have. Like it's just empowering and we all have that ability.
I'm curious, what your favorite thing that Akashic Records has helped one of your clients with?
Oh my gosh. I don't think I can pick a specific client, but I think it's my favorite is when I see relationships unfold within the Akashic Records. That's kind of my favorite thing to see, especially when, and like with most things, right? When we don't have an answer to something, we can't see the future with 100% certainty. But it's just, I love seeing the love stories of when clients will come in and they'll see that partner that, they're wanting to attract, but isn't currently in their life, and seeing them on the other side of when they are with that partner. That's my favorite. And really just going through the challenges that they've gone through. Of course, like when you're seeking direction and guidance, you're kind of in like the thick of it, right? Like you're just like, I don't know what to do, which way. But seeing them co-create and use it as a tool to be able to move forward with a little bit more ease and flow, I think that's just so beautiful because, again, it gives the client that power back to be like, okay, then I can move forward and I can align with that higher self version of me. And it's not as hard as I thought it would be.
It makes them feel like they can approach it differently.
Totally. Like the way that I describe the Akashic Records is, and people will ask this often, is my life set in stone, or like, is my timeline or life path, is that set for me before I come into Earth, into this incarnation? That's a common question that I'll get. And the answer is a little bit of both. And so how I see it is that our soul, before coming into this incarnation, kind of decide what lessons, again, it wants to learn, with who's in my soul family, what are the big events that are going to happen in my life. But I picture that as like the script of the movie. But then us as humans on Earth, we have free will and choice. And so we are the directors and the producers of that movie script. And so, yes, there are lessons that kind of are written out for us. And of course, we can't choose or didn't choose our parents and our family and who was in our life, but we can choose to write off certain characters, write in certain characters. We can choose to maybe pivot the storyline a little bit at certain points in our life. So I think it's a little bit of both. And it really is like such a tool to co-create.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you share what it means when you talk about our highest timeline?
Yeah. So our highest timeline is usually, is presented to us in an Akashic Record reading. A timeline is basically a life path. And your highest timeline is like the highest available timeline, meaning the timeline or life path that's available to you where you're living in the most alignment, the most fulfillment, and the most bliss that you can. What happens in an Akashic Record reading is that they'll usually speak about what's happening in your current timeline or your current life path, but then they'll also present to you what higher or highest possible timelines are available and what that looks like, and also guidance for how to get from here in this current reality to there, that higher timeline, highest timeline. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. Now, I'm curious what you would say to people who are skeptical about spiritual healing, and maybe they're hesitant, but they're curious.
Yeah. Well, if you're skeptical, I mean, like, I understand it is hard to believe if you can't see it yourself. But I will say that what makes people less skeptical is when they start to experience things for themselves, right? And so, of course, for me, what made me less skeptical was that experience I had with my grandpa. But for others, it may be going to a reading and getting some validation about what you're going through and what your past lives were, or what's happening in your life that maybe no one or I wouldn't know about. So, and then I would also say for people who are hesitant but curious, just to follow that curiosity, because whether it's your subconscious mind or your higher self, there's a reason why you're curious and you want to learn more. And most of the time, it really is just the conscious mind or the ego that's the hesitant one in the brain, right? Like your subconscious mind or your higher self may be nudging you to explore more into this work, but then the logical mind may be making up these excuses for why you shouldn't or why you're hesitant.
That makes sense. Now, can you describe what the setting of an Akashic Records reading would look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So when clients come in, all I ask is that they just come in open-minded and with an open heart. And then what I do is I say like an opening mantra that gives me access, spiritual access to their records. We open up the records. We usually see their past lives, how they relate to whatever they're going through in this current life. They'll speak to their spirit guides and their spirit team, and loved ones who have passed will also usually come through. They'll shed light on what the possible timelines look like and how to get there. So they'll give pretty specific guidance. Read this book or book that trip, or this is what it'll look like if you move here instead of move there. This is what you can do in your business, and these are the different services you can provide. They're really specific about, because they want to give you guidance. And yeah.
Wow. That's very specific. You explained that very well. Thank you.
It's really awesome too, because I feel like especially for entrepreneurs or business owners, it's really fun when they'll open up their own records, but then they'll start to tap into their business a little bit too, because that itself is its own entity, or its own energetic entity, if that makes sense. And so it's really cool because your guides will drop in a lot of information about how to grow your business or what other services you can provide. It's really interesting.
And now, do you do these virtually as well?
Yeah, all of my sessions are actually virtual because it just allows me to connect with everyone across the world. People have also asked, does it affect the efficacy, whether if it's distance rather than in person. And it absolutely doesn't. And the way that it doesn't is like, think about it this way. I'm connecting to your spirit team and spirit guides, and they're nowhere close to me physically. And I'm connecting to them like immediately, right? So we don't need to be in person for us to do a reading. And then this way, you can also be comfy in your own home and in your pajamas or whatever you want.
And how long is a reading? Do they vary in time?
Yeah, most sessions are an hour. So you get like tons of information. I also record them for you. I'll record the reading, send it over, and then sometimes months later or even like the day after, they'll listen back to the recording because you're getting so much information at once. And some of the information may not make sense immediately. But then once you listen back to it later on in life, you're like, oh, shoot, like that's crazy. This happened. And, it's really cool.
Wow, I love that. And that makes sense about like looking back. I've had a birth chart reading done before and she recorded it. And I even still re-look back at that, even though that was mad long ago. Because like it's kind of, I'm trying to think of the word, but like it's foreshadowing like a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, did she mention this?
Totally. And like, even for myself, I've had readings before where in the moment I'm like, that does not make any sense. And then months later, maybe even a year later, 2 years later, I look back or I listen back. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes total sense.
And I've even noticed ones I didn't have the recording of. If I wrote something down and I want, like, now I understand a little bit, I wish I had that information. So I think that's great that you record them.
Yeah. And like the thing is with the Akashic Records, your guides are coming through at this point in your life with specific information because they know that this information at this point is going to be helpful for you. So they're filtering through and they're really specific with what they share because your guides can see your whole timeline from birth but they're sharing with you information that they know is relevant to where you are at in your current timeline. And of course, like, even though they can see everything, they can't really tell us everything that's going to happen because what would be the point of living and experiencing life? They will share a lot of information and like little tidbits of info about what's going to happen, had we chosen to go down this path or this path, and the guidance necessary to follow for different paths in life.
That's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious, as a healer, how do you navigate your own energy and protect yourself from burnout or observing other people's energies, emotions, feelings, anything they have?
Yeah. So it's really important for me to like ground myself and connect before every session. And then after every session, like fully releasing and doing my own ritual to do that. So like that's like an absolute must for every single session. Even if I do have like ones that are back to back, ground, do the session and then close and clear so that the next session that I have, I'm completely blank slate and completely clear. But energetic hygiene is super important to me. So it's something that I do every day, morning and night, releasing anything that doesn't serve me. I like cleanse around my house and then always checking in energetically about how I feel. Like I'm so diligent with everything. Am I going to say yes to this invitation? Does it make me feel good? No, then I'm going to protect that energy of mine because it's valuable. And then of course, like taking care of my physical vessel, working out every single day, eating only nourishing food. I'm also super careful about what I take in terms of media and podcasts and even just things that I watch on TV. It's just all part of the upkeep of my energy. It's all connected, right? Like I can't be, this spiritual vessel for clients if I'm not taking care of my own vessel. So that's super, super important to me.
I love everything you mentioned there, even in terms of the podcast you're listening to. Like, it's that deep. I think people mention the ritual and I sage myself, but it's more than that. It's more than that. And I love how you elaborated on that.
Yeah. It's everyone's preference. Do whatever you want. But for me personally, if I'm, doing rituals and cleansing myself. But then at the end of the day, I'm listening to music that's really dark, or I'm watching trash TV or like toxic trash TV, things like that. It kind of puts me off balance. Or if I'm eating junk every day or anything like that, it totally messes with my energy and it doesn't make me feel good. So I'm not going to do that because I'm not upkeeping what I want to feel.
I get that. Have you always embodied that?
Oh my gosh, no. Like, especially if you were to see me 10 years ago, you would think that I'm a totally different person. And I feel like it was part of my journey. But like being in your early 20s, I was not really into spiritual work almost at all. I actually worked as like a server at a bar and was surrounded by that kind of energy, if you know what I mean. I didn't take care of my body how I do now. Absolutely not. But looking back, I can definitely feel the complete shift and 180 of what that felt like then and what I feel like now. And had I chose to dive into energy work at that time, I don't think it would have even been possible for me, to be honest, because I just wasn't vibrating in the same frequency as healing right now. I was kind of in my early 20s, like self-destructing. But yeah, I think it's just part of the journey of finding your way here and healing yourself. Like that's what it brought me here in the first place. I was healing myself.
It is part of the journey. I love how you mentioned it's all connected. And I think even some healers need that reminder. It's deeper than just saging yourself before you work with people. That's part of it, but it's not only that, you know?
Yeah, totally. And like that's why I'm also really passionate about subconscious work. And I'm in school to be a clinical hypnotherapist as well, because I truly feel like the subconscious and the energy behind things makes such a huge difference. Like that's why I don't totally believe in, what are they called? Mood boards, vision boards. I don't totally believe in vision boards. I do in the sense that we can see it visually, but I truly feel like behind the vision board, to really work on that subconscious mind and those belief systems and the energy behind the vision board. Because I can make a vision board, but if I subconsciously don't believe that that's possible for me, or I don't believe that I deserve what's on the vision board, it's going to take a lot longer for me to be able to manifest that or for those visions to come to fruition, right? So that's why I feel like energy healings and that subconscious inner work is so important, even more important than maybe like the physical vision board, in my opinion.
Now, how would you say hypnotherapy works with the energy healing?
Yeah. And so that's why I'm so excited to offer all three, because the Akashic Records really opened their eyes to our soul, understanding our soul, where it's been, where it's going, and like what are the steps to get there. Kind of like the blueprint, in my opinion. And then energy healing works on the physical body and the energetic body, right? We're clearing out those energetic blockages that are in our body. But then when it comes to hypnotherapy, that's when we're working on the mind, the brain, the subconscious mind. And like our subconscious mind is actually driving the bus 90 to 90% of the time. But we don't know it because we think it's our conscious mind, which is actually only in action 5 to 10% of the time. So it's really interesting because like this is why I'm so excited to offer all three of these services, because in an Akashic reading, clients will see their future. But then sometimes what happens is they'll have, of course, like the energetic imbalances and the blockages, which can be removed with energy healing. But then they'll also potentially have those subconscious blocks, which would be like limiting beliefs, negative self-talk, those subconscious thoughts that are running in the background. And so it is difficult to believe that you can jump from your current timeline to that future possible higher timeline if you have a lot of those limiting beliefs. But if those are cleared, then it makes it easier for you to close that gap and get to that more aligned higher path.
So they work really well together.
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I'm curious. I ask a lot of guests if they've had and a lot of people have, but I'm curious if you've had a really big aha moment in your life.
Oh my gosh, I think I've had many, but I would say that, like opening other people's records, especially at the beginning, was a big aha moment for me, because I always thought that the healing was left to other people in my family, and it's just something that I admired from others, but it wasn't possible for me. But then as I started to practice with other people and hold sessions for other people, like things would come through that I would never know. And that was the aha moment for me. Like, oh my gosh, I can actually do this. And I had to do it because I kept thinking, if I have this ability and those healers in the Philippines had those abilities, but should they had chosen not to practice their energy healing, my grandpa wouldn't be here today. And so if I have this ability, then I have almost like an urge and a duty and an aspiration to continue, because like if they didn't, what would have happened? And so I feel like I want to and I have to.
Wow, I got chills.
It is. It is. And like for all of those healers and intuitives out there, I know sometimes it is kind of difficult to put yourself out there because, like you're not going to be accepted by everybody. But I also feel like we're not meant to be accepted by everybody. We're meant to be accepted by the people who we're helping. And that's what matters the most. And just think about the ripple effect that you're making on other people. Like you're helping heal somebody else, and that ripple effect of their family having them around, or their family healing them. Or even if it's not that serious and they're just pivoting their life into something more aligned, like that it has such a trickle effect on everybody in their life. So, just think about it that way, because at the end of the day, it's not about me. It's about my clients, and it's not about you as the healer. It's about your clients and about who you're helping and the collective.
I love everything you just said there. No, it's so true. And I say that sometimes on the podcast. I have another podcast I host just about breathwork, and I say that like, I'm not for everybody. You might not like me. You might not want to do breathwork with me. Breathwork is so magical, even if you don't want to do it with me. Like, I'm going to keep spreading this word, but like, maybe I'm not for you. Maybe you don't like the sound of my voice. Maybe you don't like whatever. That's okay. You know? And even with you and Akashic Records, maybe somebody doesn't resonate with your energy or whatever it is, but it's like, there is still power in Akashic Records,
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it's funny because when I started to put myself out there online, I actually got a heat comment from a ghost account, and it said something like, blah, blah, blah. You say the same things over and over again. And at first I was like, oh my gosh. But then I was like, you know what? I will say the same things over and over again because I truly believe in them. So like, yes, I will say the same things over and over again. And I have no shame in that. So thank you.
It's true though. Gosh, I loved this. Bree, I could speak to you for a long time. Have you heard of a man named Jay Shetty?
I have. Yes. Yeah.
I'm a big fan, big fan. He has a podcast called On Purpose. He ends it with 2 segments, and I end my podcast with the same 2 segments he ends his with. First segment is the many sides to us, and there's 5 questions, and they need to be answered in 1 word each. What is 1 word someone who is meeting you for the first time would use to describe you as?
Sweet.
What is 1 word someone who knows you extremely well would use to describe you as?
I would say compassionate.
What is 1 word you'd use to describe yourself?
Loving.
What is 1 word that if someone didn't like you or agree with your mindset would use to describe you as?
I'd say bubbly because I've heard that before, but I'll take it.
I don't even think that's an insult. I think that's cute. Do you not like
someone too bubbly, but
What is 1 word you're trying to embody right now?
Ooh, goddess.
Love that.
Yeah.
Second segment is the final 5, and these can be answered in up to a sentence.
Okay.
What is the best advice you've heard or received?
Honestly, just to be authentic, I would say authenticity, because I know this is not one sentence, but whoever you are and whatever your beliefs are, just being authentic to who you truly are will attract all of the right people, right? Like when you're putting on that mask or who you think you're supposed to be, then of course you're not going to attract the right opportunities or people into your life. So just be authentic.
What is the worst advice you've heard or received?
Worst advice. Oh, actually, the worst advice I've received is to dim your light in certain situations. I don't think you should ever dim your light in any situation, but I've heard to do that in certain situations, whether that be like, around your boss or around certain potential love partners or whatever that it looks like for you. But I don't think that should be followed ever.
I don't either. Honestly, I feel like that means you're in the wrong place. What is something that you used to value that you no longer value?
I would say like material items. I still love having a beautiful life and having beautiful things, but they don't mean as much to me as they did before. I would much prefer experiences and feeling good.
If you could describe what you would want your legacy to be as if someone was reading it, what would you want it to say?
I'd wanted to say that she was someone who was compassionate and helped people heal through their healing journeys as much as possible.
I love that. If you could create one law in the world that everyone had to follow, what would it be? And I want to know why.
I would just say to treat others how you want to be treated. I know that's a very common one, but I still feel like everyone should follow it because like the energy that you put out is the energy that you do get back. So I feel like, treating others how you want to be treated.
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Bree. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, where can listeners connect with you?
Yeah, so I'd love if you connect with me on Instagram or TikTok. I'm at Sol and Luna Healing. It's SOL and LUNA Healing. Or if you'd like to book a session with me, it's solandlunahealing.com.
Awesome. And I will link that in the show notes. And no pressure, but I do just like to give it back to the guest. Any final words of wisdom, anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Absolutely. So I just want listeners to know that their highest timeline or their most aligned life is actually readily available to them. And it's a lot easier to obtain than they might think. It just does come from a little bit of inner work and using some tools like breath work or the Akashic Records or energy healing to just help you along that path to alignment.
Well, thank you so much, Bree. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Manders Mindset. In case no one told you today, I'm proud of you. I'm rooting for you. And you got this. As always, if you enjoyed the show, I would really appreciate it if you would leave me a 5-star rating, leave a review, and share it with anyone you think would benefit from this. And don't forget, you are only one mindset shift away from shifting your life. Thanks, guys. Until next time.